What are the etiquette rules I need to know at a breakfast table? Whether it's to enjoy some bread, have a coffee, or eat some cake, these and other questions will be answered in this video. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, consultant etiquette specialist and co-founder of the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol. And in this video, I'm going to show you some etiquette rules for you to use at a breakfast. In fact, I set up a table here with some foods that I'm going to teach you how to eat in this video. If you enjoyed this topic, like the video and subscribe to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. Here, there are always lots of videos to teach you about good manners. And I hope you like this format, this video dynamic. I'm trying something new. So, I really want to know what you think and also get your feedback. So, don't forget to comment here what you thought. So today I brought here to the channel a breakfast table setup. It could also be an afternoon coffee table or even a tea time table. All right? But I brought this type of table with some foods that I'm going to teach here in this video. So I'm going to teach you how to eat bread, cake, and have some coffee. I'm going to teach you some details that are important for you to know in this kind of situation. Remember that you can also use all the content from this video in a coffee shop style restaurant, which is very popular nowadays, or even at a hotel breakfast, for example. Some things might change, right? Because of the dynamics and the way the food is presented, but the logic will be along the same lines. So, before I start teaching you about specific foods, I wanted to share some general rules about table manners. In these moments at the table, such as breakfast or coffee, first, I want you to understand a little about the placement of items on the breakfast table. So here we have a glass, which could also be a cup, and in it we can serve water or juice. Here we have the knife on the right side and the fork on the left side. And in this situation, we usually use dessert cutlery. We also have a dessert plate where we will eat the food and a cup accompanied by a saucer. The napkin, which can be made of paper, but here I have a cloth napkin with a napkin ring. So this is a basic setup for a breakfast table. There could be variations, right? If, for example, cereal was served or a fruit in a small bowl, something like that, I would need a spoon. But since I don't have that on my table menu, I didn't add it. So now that we've seen the position of the cutlery, I need to give you some general introductions about table manners. The first point is about the napkin, the cloth napkin. It should be placed on your lap right after the hostess puts hers down, so the hostess puts hers first and then the guests. If you are in a hotel or a cafe where there isn't a specific host in that situation, as soon as you sit down, you should place your napkin. Then you will take it and place your napkin. Open or folded in half, that's up to you. I'll place it folded in half here on my lap, open. And then we can move on to other general rules. You should always eat one food at a time. So first, for example, you eat the fruit, then you eat the bread, then you eat the cake, and you serve yourself gradually. There's no need for you to put a lot of food on your plate. That can make you seem like a very anxious person, and it's not elegant. So the food there on a breakfast table is usually all laid out in front of you. This can happen at a breakfast or a larger afternoon coffee with more guests, more participants, or even at a hotel. A buffet is set up there like a sideboard and the food is served in another area. But usually when there is a set table with food, the dishes are placed in the center of the table and you can go help yourself. You eat there, always trying something new. You don't need to fill your plate. Besides, the dessert plate isn't very big, so you can't fit much on it anyway. Did you get your plate dirty? Want to change your plate? No problem. You can ask for a new plate, right? To be changed right there. That's why if you want to welcome your friends with a breakfast table, an afternoon coffee table, the ideal thing is to leave glasses and plates in a little corner like this, close to you, so you can replace them for your guests if necessary. That will also happen with the glass. So, for example, someone might have some juice and then want to have some water, but the glass is dirty, and that's not ideal. So, always have some extra items on hand to replace them if needed. And if you're in a situation as a guest, there's no problem with changing your plate or your glass. If they're not suitable for what you want or expect to enjoy your food, if by any chance you choose a type of food that you'll eat only with your hands. There's no need for you to remove the cutlery from the table. The cutlery should only be removed when it's necessary. So, if you don't use the cutlery, there's no need for you to remove them from the table. For example, you might only use the knife, so you just take the knife from the table, okay? You don't need to take the fork. Only when you finish your meal, you can cross the cutlery and then you take the fork, showing that you have finished your breakfast. I adjusted the items here and I also removed the glass that was here, so you can better see how to use the cup the right way. In general, the cup is used for hot drinks like coffee, tea, or hot chocolate. Yes, there are specific cups for tea and coffee, for example, but in general, using the cup for hot drinks is a rule that works. You can follow that guideline, okay? Later, if you want, I can come back with a video talking a bit more about these differences in cups, situations for coffee and tea. But right now, I want you to be able to apply the general rules. So, having an introductory idea that the cup is used for hot drinks will already work well for you. Here I have a coffee, and a question that always comes up is, where should I place my cup? Well, on top of the dessert plate, you should place it on the right side. And if we had a glass here right after the glass, would it be placed next to the glass? I'll remove the glass again. So you can visualize this presentation in a really interesting way, including bringing the glass back here. It can also be used in a table setting presentation. Sometimes you want to leave the table open for your guests, so you can set the table this way. But what we see most often is the cup on the plate. And it's important to mention that when you set your breakfast table, the mouth of the cup should be facing up like this. Many times in restaurants, we see the cup with the mouth facing down. Like this, right? Yeah, sometimes in hotels, we also see this kind of situation a lot, but that's wrong. Many times they present it this way even for hygiene reasons. In hotels, breakfast tables are often set up the day before. To keep them clean and bug-free, they turn the cups upside down. Ideally, the next day, hotels should turn the cups right side up, but that doesn't always happen, so the best thing is to turn them right side up yourself. Now we're going to learn how to hold the cup properly. You can pinch the cup, and pinching means placing your index finger and your thumb on the handle with your middle finger underneath to support it. Or you can hold the cup with your index finger, right? Like this. Making a hook, your thumb on top finishes this hook and the rest of your fingers follow along like this. Usually the most recommended way, according to etiquette, would be to pinch the glass like this. Especially in afternoon tea etiquette, in British afternoon tea, that very traditional English afternoon tea, it is always recommended that you pinch the cup to drink your tea. However, with the rise of mugs and also coffee, many times we end up doing it this way. And then for example, when I'm going to drink coffee, I usually hold it like this. And when I'm going to use very fine porcelain, a very small cup, or when I'm going to have tea, I follow the pinch rule, which is very elegant and very sophisticated. And few people know about this thing of pinching the cup. Oh, and an important tip, never raise your pinky finger because that's not elegant. A common question is also whether you need to lift the saucer to drink something from the cup. As a rule, if you are sitting, you don't need to lift the saucer to drink what's in the cup. So just drink this way, always looking at the center of the cup and never over it. Because that can also seem like arrogant eye contact, you know? So the ideal way, right, It would actually be ideal if my cup was already here in this position, ready for me to taste. If I was standing or far from the table, sometimes you're on a couch and there's a coffee table, so you hold the saucer with one hand and the cup with the other hand. By the way, if you like this video in this format, leave a comment below. I really want to know. Can I come back with part 2, giving you more instructions and more etiquette rules as well? So leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also follow me on social media. Now we're going to talk about another food we have here on the table, which is bread. Here's a basket with 4 small breads. How will you taste them? Well, remember that we're going to taste one food at a time and we'll eat using our dessert plate. So I'm going to take my bread, bring it to my table, and the bread. It is eaten with your hands. So you take a little piece of bread and eat it, Juliana, but I'm not going to eat my bread plain like this. I'm going to spread some butter. I'm going to spread some cream cheese. Of course, you're not going to eat it like that. That's why I brought some butter so we can also understand this process. Here I have some butter, but it could be cream cheese, jam, or any other item you want to add to your bread. You will take the little container, get a spoon or a knife, and put it on your plate. Serve yourself an amount that you think is enough for you. Of course, you don't need to put a large amount. You might be a butter lover, a jam lover. Just put a reasonable, polite amount. And then if you need to, you can add more later. Bring the butter, the jam, the cream cheese back to the center of the plate. With your hand, you take a piece of bread, take a bit of butter, spread it on the bread, and set the knife down. Another question is also when the bread is served. But if we want to make like a sandwich, ideally the sandwiches should be served ready. But we know that many times people lay out salamis, hams, and cheeses, and we make our own sandwiches. We also need to think about a real situation. So what are you going to do? Are you going to take your bread, cut it in half, and split it with your hands? Then you're going to assemble your sandwich and eat it with your hands. I recommend eating one part and then the other. And then you leave it here in the center. Remember, when you serve yourself the cold cuts, you can't use your hands. You should use the fork that was provided. Or ideally, we would have a shared fork here where all the guests would use the utensil to serve themselves. Now I'm going to talk a little about the glass, which I brought back to the table to show you as an example. As I mentioned earlier, I could have a regular glass here as well, but I brought a wine glass because it looks more interesting on the table. So how are you going to hold this glass? Remember, this is a heavier glass. It's not a crystal glass. So if you lightly touch the upper part of the bowl with your finger, that's okay, all right? But remember that the most elegant way to hold a glass or a goblet is always to hold it by the bottom part. Remember to always keep your fingers together and also remember to look at the center of the glass. Taking very big gulps also ends up making the process less elegant. So if you're really thirsty, try to drink a little more slowly. Try to hold back your eagerness to hydrate a little or even hydrate yourself before sitting at the table. And the glass follows the same arrangement as the plate I mentioned to you. For example, if you want, you can ask to change it. There's no problem at all. And it's actually interesting to remember that the way I showed you to hold a glass like this works for any kind of situation, not just at a cafe, but also at a dinner. And I know you might even ask me, Juliana, what about a dinner table setting, other types of food? How do I learn more about this topic? There, in my Etiquette and Good Manners training, one of the most successful courses at our school, there's a module where I talk only about etiquette. These and other pieces of information in a much more detailed, complete, and didactic way you can find in my training. This training has already been taken by thousands of people who truly want to master table manners and improve their personal image. And they understand that the perception, the interpretation that other people have of you is something you provide to them. You are the one who gives them the information for the interpretation they should have. If you want to have this knowledge, if you want to feel confident at the table, click on the QR code right here or on the first link in the description of this video. I really want to welcome you as a student at our school, so don't miss out on joining. Now I'm going to show you how to eat a little cake. It's always recommended to have a separate utensil for serving each food. You noticed that, right? So what I'm going to do here is take the little cake, I'll cut it, we're done, let's go. Zanotto, and I'll serve myself. Juliana, but I saw that you took your fork and used the shared knife. Yes, but I used my fork only on the part I'm going to eat, so it's not a problem. I'm not here touching the food. The cake is going to be eaten with the fork, okay? Which you can use with your dominant hand. So if you feel more comfortable using your left hand, you can use your left hand, but I'm right-handed, so I'll use my right hand. And then you're going to cut. If you cut a piece that's too big, cut a smaller one using the fork, okay? There is a specific utensil for cake, but we don't always find it on the table or even being sold out there. And there's also no need to have a utensil for every type of food. That's why, in general, we end up using the dessert utensil, and it's the one that's most commonly found out there. And I know it might seem like a lot of information, and I could also spend much more time here talking about the breakfast table. As I said before, if you want, I can make another video like this with this realistic dynamic, and also bring other foods that we can have at a breakfast table or an afternoon coffee table. You might also have questions about behavior at formal dinners. So I'm going to leave a video here on the side where I've already talked a bit more about this topic. It will definitely complement this video's content. Remember, if you haven't participated in any training from our school yet, click now on the link below or on the QR code that's showing up here on the side. Just point your phone at the QR code and you'll go straight to our website with the discount already applied. I'll stop here. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you next time.